The next guest here is Alexander Wichert. Is Alexander here?
Yes. I am here. Hey.
Yep, perfect. Welcome to the panel. Welcome to the session. Pleasure to have you. Alexander Wichert is the CEO of Vexcel Imaging, a company based in Graz that is a global leader in using high-end technology to develop aerial camera systems to map the world. So I think as an introduction, Alexander is doing a short presentation, and afterwards we have a chat on Vexcel Imaging in Austria. Thank you, Alexander.
Perfect, Michaela. Thank you very much for this kind introduction, and also thanks a lot for the opportunity to presenting here in this forum. I already shared my screen, and you should see a presentation now. Is that the case? Does it work? Okay, excellent, great. So, in the case of interest, let me jump into the presentation before we come to the Q&A session. I want to just let you know what we are doing. So what we are doing is our main business is that we are manufacturing aerial cameras. These are quite large cameras and are used to map the world. A lot of infrastructure projects and so on. So it's all about aerial survey by imagery. That comes together with a software system which is required to process the imagery. And then we have launched in 2018, we have launched what we call our Vexcel data program. So we are using our technology to fly disaster areas and also do regular mapping projects all around the world. So that's in a nutshell what we are doing. The company was founded in 1992. We started with the development of a photogrammetric scanner. So this is a scanner which is used to scan film. Aerial imagery at that time was all film-based. But then the world moved into digital as we did. So in 2003, we launched our first digital camera, the so-called UltraCam D. Then we had a significant step. Okay.
Somebody's microphone is on. Can you please put off your microphone?
So please, who's not talking, please mute. So then we had a very interesting step. 2006, we were acquired by Microsoft. Here it was all about Microsoft wanted to build up the competition to Google Maps, and at that time it was called Virtual Earth, project launched by Bill Gates in 2005. We were acquired to support Microsoft with cameras and software. We had fantastic 10 years in Microsoft, and became a privately owned company again. Microsoft was changing focus with a move from Steve Ballmer to Satya Nadella, and we left Microsoft. We did a management buyout and became a privately owned company again. 2017, we launched our Vexcel data program, where we started in the US and did disaster mapping. So whenever there's a hurricane, flooding, or fire, our planes go in the air and map as quickly as possible the area, process overnight, and deliver the data to all the FEMA's, police, Red Cross, and so on. And then in 2020, so just in January, just before the start of the COVID pandemic situation, we required a quite large operation in the US. So we grew overnight from 120 people to more than 450 employees, with sites in Austria, Spain, and across the US. And we are now operating the biggest survey plane fleet worldwide with more than 100 planes. If you talk about cameras, I don't want to jump into the technical details. We talk about large format cameras, 450 megapixels per image. These cameras roughly weight around 85 kilograms, put into survey planes. If you want to buy one, about 750,000 euro. We can talk about pricing later. But that's what such a camera would cost. With some software and other stuff, it's easily above $1 million. So these cameras are very precise measurement instruments. Here you see our oblique camera, which is used for city mapping. Planes are typical, these small 4, 6, 8-seater planes, which are used to operate the cameras. And on the lower right, you see how a camera in a plane looks like. That's how the installation is done. Impressive footprint, impressive resolution. So that's an image taken in 1,200 meter of flight altitude. The ground sample distance, the resolution is 3 centimeter. That means the accuracy in the image is in the centimeter range. So you can measure. We are talking about precise measurement cameras. And if you zoom in, you can see these two guys doing ping pong, and you can even identify the ball flying around. And that image has been taken at 1,200 meter. So quite a piece of technology. Well, reflects all the why the price is high. That's a beautiful city of Graz, Joanneum photo taken by just some eye candy to show you fantastic imagery. And we have a workflow which allows us to generate 3D data. So we are not only talking about flat imagery, we're also processing 3D data. So we can build city models out of these image flights by using our software system. Support team. Now we are selling all around in the world. So we have a support team located in Europe and Graz, and we have operating one in North America and another one in Asia and Singapore. So we are covering all 3 time zones. Support is super important. When our camera doesn't work, the plane is grounded, and you lose a flight day. That's just a ton of costs. So support and reliability on our instruments is really key to the success of our customers. We have a rather small sales team of 4 guys, and we work with local partners all around the globe as we are selling worldwide, and we have achieved a market share of about 50%. So we are a leading supplier of these cameras. A few years ago, we started to use our own technology to start flying disaster areas. This is how it looks like. We call it gray sky because usually in a disaster, the sky is not blue, it's gray. So we fly after a hurricane, flooding, wildfire, and so on. We fly as quickly as possible, usually next day or so, whenever it's somehow safe to fly. We process overnight, we supply the data. These are all just some eye candies. You see these houses burned on the upper right, and the one on the lower left is still okay. Here you still see fires on the ground, fire workers on place, and we have already been in the air mapping the area. And then we process the data overnight, and we supply it to all the fire workers, Red Cross, FEMA, and so on, so that they can organize the rescue and rebuild the infrastructure. That is how it started, and we developed over these years. We developed into the de facto standard for disaster imagery across the US. So we have hubs where our planes are located, so that within hours we can literally reach every point in the US and do this kind of disaster mapping. That is supported by regular flights. So we also fly at Blue Sky. We do that in US and in Europe. We'll start in Asia Pacific. So we provide beautiful imagery, and that allows companies like the insurance industry to use this imagery, do some pre and post hurricane. That's an example. On the left, it was before the hurricane. On the right is this is how it looked after the hurricane. Super helpful information, not only for the disaster response, but also for the insurance industry, as it's relatively easy to detect which house has been blown away and which is still existing. Or another example, this was a lucky guy at the beginning of January 2018. Fantastic property, big house, nice pool. In October, no longer the lucky guy, totally burned down after a fire. So with our imagery, we can provide these kind of information to the insurance industry and other industries. So that's literally what we are doing. Short introduction, and with that, I am happy to hand over to Michaela for the questions.
I should put on my microphone. Thank you for your presentation.
That makes so much sense, right? To unmute.
Thank you for your presentation, Alex. Yeah, I've since Vexcel Imaging was founded, it had a very close relationship with the Technical University in Graz. Do you still cooperate with them? And if yes, how?
Yeah, good. Thank you. Yeah, so clearly, well, why Graz? So the company was founded in Graz because of the university background of the founders at that time. And Graz has a really fantastic university with a wide range of institutes, not only technology-wise, but a lot in the technology. And that makes Graz a very interesting place to be for a technical-driven company like we are. And so from the very beginning, we had that very close relation with the university. So we mainly on the space of computer vision. So we offer students internships. We cooperate on research projects. We have master theses running in cooperation between our company and the university. Well, and then last but not least, a lot is about hiring talented people. So we hire a lot from the university, and this gives us a rich pool of highly talented people, which is super important nowadays.
Cool. As you have mentioned in your presentation, Vexcel Imaging has quite a rich history of changes in the shareholder structure. Can you let us know a little bit how that came about, and if there was some help on the Austrian side when you went through the restructuring?
Yeah, happy to do so. So as I was shown in my brief introduction, Vexcel started as a privately owned company. Then we were acquired by Microsoft in 2006, and then we did a management buyout in 2016. So we were a party of 4 people, 4 individuals buying the company. Well, none of us have had deep enough pockets to do it on its own money. Buying a multi-million company with around 60 employees at that time isn't cheap. And I was deeply impressed by what Austria offers with respect to that. Coming from Germany, this was the first time that I did this kind of an acquisition in Austria. We worked together with our local bank, Styrian Sparkasse, a fantastic team. They brought us in contact with the Austrian Wirtschaftsservice, the AWS. And I was
the other AWS in Austria.
The other AWS, right? Yeah, and I must say I was really deeply impressed about what instruments are available from the Austrian government in helping such managements buyout. We did it in just three months. We were from the initial talk to closing the deal, so that was a fantastic support. Yeah.
Glad to hear that Austria was a crucial point in getting the deal.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So
yeah.
without this support, it would not have been able for us to do this management buyout, and it was critical money-wise, but also timing-wise, and the way the bank worked, but also AWS. It was just fantastic. Yeah, I'm deeply impressed by what Austria offers here.
Glad to hear. Your special cameras are produced in Austria. How do you see the value chain, value-added chain in Austria? Because from one of our conversations, I remember that you are buying, parts from a producer in Carinthia.
Yeah, totally right. So when we look on our cameras, these cameras are in many aspects really scratching on what technology can do. When you look on the optics, it's such a specific lens system. When you look on the electronics, super high speed electronic, and when you look on the mechanical parts, if something is wrong by a micrometer, this would for us it would be a disaster and would destroy the accuracy of the camera. As all these cameras are certified measurement instruments, they need to keep the accuracy in all pressure and temperature conditions you have in a plane. And now Austria isn't exactly the biggest country in the world, but what I always found is that given to its size, that Austria has a very rich environment of high technology companies. So we source a lot from Austria. We do a lot of specific developments with Austrian companies. And I'm always really happy and impressed by the technology and the knowledge we find here in this country. And also the final assembly of our cameras, which is a super complex process, takes about a week to manufacture one camera. Is done in a company in Corinthia, where we have a rich set of knowledge, as they do not only component manufacturing but also the final assembly testing. So that's I must say that the technology landscape in Austria is fantastic given the size of this country. So that helps companies like us extremely, because it's much easier to go to somebody around the corner instead of using somebody from another country or flying around the globe, because you need a land system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love to tell the story about the hidden champions in Austria. So that's sort of
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
that's sort of the backbone of the Austrian industry. That's those market leaders in very specific niche products, markets that nobody knows, but are really top-notch technology in Austria. Mm-hmm.
I like these stories, and here you have to tell a lot.
Definitely.
really some stories to tell.
So on another note, where Austria is also excelling is the export of services and products. The Austria exports more than, I think, 55% of its services and products. Of course, due to the small size of the home market, so we needed to excel in that aspect. So how does sales for you go, for your company go from Austria, and how do you organize your sales efforts?
Happy to talk about that. So we are sitting in a niche market. So when we talk about camera deals, we talk about 20, 25, let it be 30 cameras per year, and that represents about 50% of the world market. So each deal is a kind of a fight. And when a customer buys into the technology, he usually stays there for many years. As changing cams to a competing camera system is always linked with high costs and retraining the people, getting new software, and so on. So each deal is super important, and we are doing it with a relatively small team. So we have 4 salespeople, which where we are covering the world. They are based in Graz, in Germany, and in the US. In addition, so these guys do the direct sales, but they are also running our sales channels. So it's a mixture of direct and the channel sales. So we have sales partners all around the world who are taking care about market specifics. Well, like in China or Russia, you need to have a local guy who can talk on a daily basis with a customer, who is in the language, who is in the business use, and so on. So it's a kind of a mix. And there's almost no country in the world where no ultracam is, so we have been everywhere. So that means we draw a lot on travel, which is nice. Graz has a nice airport. I wish we would see more connections, but at least we have a hump to jump to Vienna, and then the world is open with the plane, if not COVID. But then also we have a really nice infrastructure. So we have a 10 gigabit internet line. I think we have been first in Styria, first company who got that, and that helps us also a lot in transferring the data back and forward. So I must say, the infrastructure, the IT structure is quite decent in what Austria offers, what we have in Graz. So it's really nicely possible for us to work internationally based in Graz.
Through the acquisition in the US, through the business that you bought recently there with that you're doing the flights yourself. So your company went also through substantial growth recently. How did that impact the Austrian site, and are there any changes expected?
Great question. So we did for us a game-changing investment about a year ago, January 2020, just before the lockdown. We acquired a quite large operation in the US, where we got overnight more 300 people more into our company, and we overnight we got 100 planes. So the integration after that was really a challenge, as we have been all sitting in the home offices just a few weeks after we did the acquisition. But we managed to work it through, and there's phone calls of course. And we have now structured it in a way that the site in Graz, Vexcel Imaging, where everything started, 1992, is the technology hub. So we are developing all the cameras and the software. We are developing that here, and we are using the cameras for our own operation as well as selling it to customers all around the world. And the flying, the data program, all the flying is located in the sites in the US. So we split that in a way. Technology stays in Graz and it grows here, and the Vexcel data program is being operated out of the US.
So I want to open up the forum here and see if there are any questions from the audience, either in the chat or if somebody wants to put a live question. Or is anybody out there before I pose my last question on the list?
Yeah, I'm just checking. I don't see anything coming up
in the chat. No.
in the chat, not yet. So we can give a few more seconds.
Yes.
To see.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Please.
How was it for the Americans to be now introduced to an Austrian company? Did they finally find out where Austria was on the globe?
Yeah. Well, I'm totally with you. So, well, there's clearly a cultural difference.
And I'm saying this as an American, so.
Yeah. Okay. And I'm answering it. I'm answering it with a smile. Well, as we were owned by Microsoft the 10 years before, so we got all used to the American culture and vice versa. But of course, I would say after the acquisition, some needed first to look up where that Graz is and where that Austria is, and if we are the guys with the kangaroo or the guys with the mountains.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But we worked it out.
Now they know. Now they are informed, right?
Yeah.
So if there are no, I have one last question on my list here. As you mentioned before, you're processing quite an amazing amount of data due to the image sizes. How do you see the data infrastructure provided in Austria?
Yeah. So, well, data is infrastructure, and data is really key for us. So every picture taken by a camera has about a size of 1 gigabyte. And the camera shoots a picture roughly every second. So after a day of flying, one camera comes back with typically around 15, 16 terabytes of data. And we are not operating one camera, we are operating dozens of them. So what we are currently collecting is about 50 petabyte per year, and that is just massive. So we operate a fairly large infrastructure in the US. So that is our big data processing center. But then we have a second one in Graz. And if we combine that all together, I would say everybody is aware of Netflix video streaming, also big data. But our data centers have roughly 10 times the size of what Netflix is operating. So it's really massive, but we invested millions and millions and millions in storage, and also, of course, using heavily cloud storage. And I would say that the infrastructures are quite different between the US and Austria. So while these huge data centers are kind of commodity in the US, I would say we are not there in Austria. We found them. but we are operating most of our IT in Graz by ourselves, while in the US we are drawing on existing data centers. So there's a bit of a different approach to it, but that was one of the reasons why we were asking for a 10 gigabit internet connection, which we got, which is fantastic, because that eases up the data exchange between the sites. So I would say in general, when it comes to IT services, there might be some room for improvement here if it comes to Austria, but at least we have a large, a good internet pipe that is super helpful, and also power costs, and that is super significant. If you start operating these massive storage systems, the power costs are in a decent range, so it's not that you are killed by the operating costs. So it's possible, but I would say increasing the capabilities here would be helpful.
Yeah, that's what the Austrian government is currently also pushing, even more due to the pandemic and COVID situation, and everybody is working from home. So digitization is a heavily invested topic also at the moment by the Austrian government. Cool. That's it from my side. If we don't have any further question from the audience, I don't see anything here in the chat. Then I would like to thank Alexander for participating for this interesting conversation. Pleasure to have you here on the panel, and we're definitely going to be in touch.
Yeah, thanks again for the invitation. Thanks again for the opportunity to talk. Was great. Thank you.
Super. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Yeah. Same to you.
Enjoy.